Hello Math 8 students, and today for lesson 4.2 we're going to be using the Pythagorean Theorem to find the length of the hypotenuse. As a very quick review from your previous lessons, remember that Pythagorean Theorem deals with right triangles. A right triangle has a right angle that is formed by the two legs. The legs are labeled as a lowercase a and b, and those can be interchangeable. Someone else could call this leg B and this leg A, and that does not matter. What does matter is the side across from the right angle is our hypotenuse, and we label that as side C. The hypotenuse will always be the longest side of the right triangle. Even if the right angle is not labeled, you should be able to look at the three sides and determine which side is the hypotenuse and which two sides are the legs. Looking at this figure, which two sides are the legs? Which side is the hypotenuse? If we label the right angle as being this angle here, with the longest side across from it, we know that the hypotenuse is the longest side, which is the 17 centimeters, which means 12 centimeters and 9 centimeters are the legs. Remember that the Pythagorean theorem states that the sum of the squares of the two legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. We write the formula as a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are the legs and c is the hypotenuse. We are going to be using this formula to find the length of a hypotenuse today. Here we are given a right triangle, and we are trying to find the length of the hypotenuse, c. We are given the two legs, 6 centimeters and 8 centimeters. We can label them as A and B. Remember, someone else could possibly call this side B and this side A. It does not matter. Our formula states that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now we are going to plug in our values. If this is our A, then we are going to use 8 for A. So we have 8 squared plus our B is 6 squared, and we're trying to find our unknown C squared. Now we are going to square 8 to the second power is 64. 6 to the second power is 36, and this still equals C squared. 64 plus 36 is 100, so we know that c to the second power equals 100. Remember from previous discussions, we're asking what number to the second power is equal to 100. Some of you could do this in your head and know that 10 to the second power is equal to 100. We can also say that we're going to square root both sides. Since we're talking about a length, we only are going to use the positive value, but we should label our answer as 10 centimeters. Remember, we were finding the hypotenuse, which should be the longest leg, and 10 is longer than 6 and 8. For the next problem, again, we are going to write a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If this is a and this is b, what would we put for a squared? We would write 12 to the second power. What would we put for b squared? We would write 5 to the second power, and that equals c squared. What does 12 to the second power equal? That is 144. What does 5 to the second power equal? That is 25. So we know that c squared is equal to 169. If we square root both sides, we find that c is equal to what? C is equal to 13, and we are going to label it 13 inches. So again, we are trying to find C, which is our hypotenuse. Remember, that is the side across from the right angle. Always start by writing your formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Choose a length for A and a length for B. And now we are going to plug in our numbers. So we have 12 to the second power plus 8 to the second power is equal to c to the second power. 12 to the second power is 144, plus 8 to the second power is 64, which equals c squared. So c squared is equal to what number? C squared is equal to 208. So now we will square root both sides. And we get C is equal to, notice our answer is no longer a whole number. In cases like this, you will often see the directions tell you to round. And in this case, we are going to round to the nearest tenth. Remember, the tenths place means 1 decimal place. So when we do the square root of 208, we get 14.422 ... So we want to round to the tenths place. What would C be rounded to the nearest tenth? C is approximately 14.4 feet. We look behind this number in the tens place. We look at the 2, and the 2 tells us to keep the 4 the same. So our answer is an approximation 4.4 feet. I'm sorry, 14.4 feet. Notice 14.4 is still larger than 12 and 8.